Hello and welcome to another edition of the C Squared podcast. This is your host, Curtis, with my co-host, Holly Royal, and we are here today to talk to you for the next 30 minutes about an aspect of the music industry that is very important, which is your PR. And specifically, we're going to be going into in-depth a little bit about what we can do for you at C Squared. This was Holly's idea, obviously, because Holly is the self-promoter out of the two of us, definitely not me. Anyways, it was my idea just to kind of go over like a few of the things we can do with C Squared, especially we're going to kind of have Holly kind of explain some stuff because she's not really the spokesperson of C Squared. So I figured we'd give her a little bit of the limelight and allow her to talk, especially because Jamie is always saying that I never let her talk. So to begin with, first of all, I want to introduce Holly for anybody that doesn't know Holly, because you've been living under a rock. She's been with us since April-ish or something like that. The company actually formed in June, but she's been working with me and Corey since April. She has been doing PR for approximately 2 years, I think, previously, and she is the head publicist over at C Squared. So she's the third in command. If she will take over if one of us dies. We'll be the third in command. And basically she knows what she's doing. But to start off, Holly, let's talk about what is PR in general, as according to our head publicist.
Well, in PR in the music industry, because it's slightly different, ish in other areas, it's basically we're putting your music in front of journalists or podcasters or basically anyone with a music media outlet and trying to persuade them to feature you or interview you or help promote you in some shape or form. That's very basically what we do.
Cool. So so now what do you think is the most important aspect that a person should be aware of prior to hiring a PR?
I guess I would probably say that you need to put the work in yourself as well. Because I think it's really important that when you're hiring a PR company, it's kind of, yes, we're doing a load of work that you can't do, but that doesn't mean that you can just sit back and not do anything. I think that's a trap some people fall into.
I agree with you. Okay, so let's start. Let's kind of back up things a little bit here. Yep. Let's kind of go into this a little bit more thoroughly. I know we only got like 35 minutes, but we're going to be as thorough as we possibly can. Okay, so first of all, let's talk about the shopping process for PR. The shopping process. So here's the very first thing that I want to cover, which is like who you should be looking for in a PR. Now, obviously, we want to sell our own services, tell people we're the best because we're the best. But like there's certain budgetary constraints or concerns to have. So there's some PRs, quote unquote PRs, will charge you like $50 or $25 or a 3-month campaign. I saw someone advertising it was like $1 a day or something stupid like that. But reversely, on the other end of the scale, you got people that are going to charge you $1,850 for a month or $2,500 or whatever like that. So I think the very first thing that the band needs to do is they kind of need to establish what their budget is going to be for PR. And you don't want to cheap out because of the fact that if you go too cheap, all you're going to be doing is getting someone that's spamming people and is probably going to be ripping you off. I mean, like, let's face it, for $25, what are you going to do? Like, what kind of effort is a person going to for $25? In my opinion, it's kind of like going to the dollar store and expecting something like a really good product from the dollar store. I mean, sometimes you can get it okay, but we both know if you buy something from the dollar store, like headphones or something like that, the headphones are going to break in like a day and they're not going to sound very good, but they serve a purpose, I guess. But okay, so now where am I going with this? So Holly, can you kind of cover, without naming names and like being, weird, but kind of cover like what you could kind of expect with a lower end or a higher end or a middle end PR?
Yeah, I mean, I guess lower end, like you say, they tend to be like an email blast. So they will usually just take what you send them. They won't proofread it. They won't write you a bio or a press release. They'll just send out what you send them. And they won't necessarily give you the advice and the guidance that you need really alongside it. Yep. So because it's just being sort of spammed out, it's very unlikely that many people are going to take it seriously or do a news feature. You might get something. Yep. It's not like you're not necessarily going to get anything, but it's it's just not the best way to go about it in terms of like your reputation and the quality of what you're getting for your money.
Yep.
You might as well save $25 and, I don't know, do it yourself or whatever if you really can't afford it this time.
Ooh, and I want to add one thing to that too, is sometimes some of those guys that do like the $1 a day thing, they don't actually do what they say they're doing. I have seen that.
That wouldn't surprise me, if I'm honest.
I have seen that because one thing you got to keep in mind is like if someone's advertising they're going to do an email blast for you, like let's say of your stuff, and there's one guy that claims he has something stupid like 20,000 contacts, which I know there's no way. Like there's no way he has 20,000 contacts.
They might be 20,000, but they're not going to be quality. Like they're probably not going to be anyone who actually cares.
But what mail service provider will give you a plan for
even that's true,
right?
I mean, there is that,
yeah. So I don't even see how that's possible, because I don't even think, maybe you can do it with Gmail, I don't know, but I mean, like if you sign up with MailChimp, like that's like a $500 a month plan or something like that. Same thing with Constant Contact and all the rest of it. So if they're charging $25 and they claim they're sending to 20,000 contacts, but MailChimp is charging a couple $100 a month. No, it doesn't add up at all. So yeah, something doesn't make any sense to me on that. So I mean, maybe there's a way that they do it, I don't know, but I have a feeling in a lot of cases it's kind of bullshit. So anyways, that's my 2 cents on that. So you were saying?
What was I saying? Oh yes. So I guess I'll jump into like the high end. I guess the thing with high end PRs is they're normally, I assume, designed for bigger bands really, and bigger labels. So the way that you do PR for bigger bands is a little bit different to the way that you do it for underground bands. So just because a PR company can, they can get Slipknot everywhere or Lamb of God or whoever, they're not necessarily going to be able to do the same for you. So I would aim for a PR company that sort of specializes in, well, obviously your genre, but also like the sort of level that you're at as a band, if that makes sense.
100%.
So you kind of maybe want to go for like a medium tier PR company. So yes, it's going to cost a bit of money, but it's not going to be the $3,000 a month or anything ridiculous like that.
Exactly. Now, just for full transparency, we charge about $1,000 a month for anybody listening. So now here's the next thing you want to consider. So so you get the budget. So let's say you got whatever the amount is. So now you're asking PRs. So my top tip, and I want to hear your top tip after this, Holly, but my top tip is that number one, speak to the PR, obviously, but also go and ask a bunch of past clients about their experience with it, because there's a couple of things to keep in mind. 1 or 2 people might tell you they had a phenomenal experience, but everyone else thought it sucked. Well, reversely, 1 or 2 people might tell you they had a terrible experience, but every other person that you talk to are like, no, I don't know what the fuck they're talking about. I had a phenomenal service with them. Because there's one thing that you want to keep in mind is that every PR will have a couple campaigns that don't work, that didn't pan out. It's always going to happen. Like, you never always have 100% awesome results. But on top of that, it's not just that, but you will have complainers, people that doesn't matter what the fuck you do, they will say that you did a terrible job. I have a good example of this, and I'm not going to name names, but last year we ran a campaign that was absolutely phenomenal. And there's no hyperbole in this. We had like all the top tier. We had Metal Injection, we had Metal Sucks, Decibel, No Clean Singing. This was like an extreme band too. And we got like top tier, independently released, no label, no nothing. And the guy wrote me back and he was furious. And he said this was the total waste of his money. Couldn't believe he paid for this. What kind of crap was this, getting me these kind of placements? And I looked at this and I was like, pardon? And so I went to 2 bands on Metal Blade, currently signed to Metal Blade. I asked them for their opinion. I said, hey, can you guys just quickly take a look at this and just kind of tell me what you think of these placements? Both of them said, this is just as good, if not better, than what we got with our campaigns, in our opinion. So that can happen too. And I've also seen it happen to other PRs where I've had a band shop me for PR and they're talking to me and they're like, this PR sucked, totally terrible. They got awful results. And I went back and I talked to the PR, because I always do that if someone tells me that. I'll go back and talk to the PR, or I'll look at what they got for results. And anytime this has ever happened, almost one for one, they had way too high expectations. Like one guy came to me and said this PR he worked with was just the shittiest thing ever. Again, he got like metal injection, decibel on a debut EP. And I was just like, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna help you. I don't know what you want, but I'm not doing this for you. So that can happen. Your turn.
Yeah, I think expectations is something to bear in mind. So when you're looking at reviews or asking people for feedback, just take it with a pinch of salt, because you've got to sort of, some people go into PR with no expectations at all. So they might think any PR results are great, which is, great for them. Whereas, like you say, if some people expect to be in Metal Hammer and Decibel from their debut single, having, I don't know, never gigged anywhere or never been anywhere before, you know that's unrealistic. It might happen once in a blue moon, but it's not common. Go on.
It can happen. What I was going to say, it can happen, and obviously we will try to pitch you at those places, and a lot of times you can get it. But at the same time, if you're brand new and you have nothing to build on, you kind of got to realize you're not going to be in Krang, most likely. You're not going to be in Hammer, most likely. But can it happen? Yes. Will we try? Yes. We literally just 3 times this year we managed to get bands on with not much prior press into Blabbermouth. So it can happen, but is that a regular occurrence? Fuck no. So, but just because one band did it with PR doesn't mean every band's going to do it, is the other thing I want to point out. Sorry, Holly, I cut you off again. I will shut up for a minute.
No, that's fine. What was I going to say? Hang on, it'll come back. It was something along the lines of expectations. I don't know. It's gone. Well, sorry. Can you think so?
I'll take over again with the expectations. But reversely, at the same time, you should have some expectations, but you shouldn't necessarily and you should aim for the moon. But if you don't get the moon, that doesn't necessarily mean that you failed. Most bands on a debut or usually will need to work up a couple albums to get big press, is usually how it goes. But again, can it happen? Yes. Have we done it? Yes, we do it all the time. But does that happen with everybody? Fuck no, it doesn't happen with everybody. Another one, we just got a band on their debut in Classic Rock magazine, and totally, that's pretty hard to do, but it happens sometimes. But again, is that going to happen with everybody? I don't fucking know. Not going to happen necessarily. So we can try, but no one can guarantee. So that's a red flag I want to talk about really quickly here. So if PR guarantees you placements, run away as far as you fucking can, because that PR is lying to you, because nobody can guarantee placements anymore. Even if they have an in at the publication, they still cannot guarantee a placement. So we've had people come to us and they're like, well, can you guarantee us Metal Injection, because Corey was writing for Metal Injection? I'm like, no, we can't do that. Can we try? We can't even have her, we don't even have her write for anything that's our stuff. So it's anyways, you got to kind of just be aware of the people that tell you that they can guarantee you Kerrang, they can guarantee you all these types of places. Do you have anything to say on?
I've remembered what I was going to say now. It's kind of relevant. There's a catch-22 where you kind of need to release music in order to promote it, in order to release it to, if you see what I mean. So having music already released makes promotion easier, which is why, doing second albums and stuff sometimes gets better results than the first, because you've already got a history. But debuts can work as well. So again, it depends on your budget and what your plans are for the music and everything like that.
Agreed, 100%.
Something to bear in mind.
Agreed. Okay, so then the next thing you want to take in mind when you're looking for PR is track record. So we kind of briefly touched over this, but I want to go into this a teeny bit more depth. So like I said, so you want to, when you're contacting past clients, don't necessarily talk to people from a long time ago, if that makes sense. Because I've seen people where the PR is like, yeah, I worked with, I don't want to name names, I'm going to make up a band's name. I worked with, I don't know, we'll say Devil Driver or something back in 1996 or something like that. And it might have been true. The guy worked with I don't even know if Devil Driver's been around that long, but I'd worked with Devil Driver in 1996, which I don't think is true. But anyways, now I got to figure out what your Devil Driver form. Not important. But anyways, That might be true that they worked with the band back in 1996, but they haven't done shit since that time.
And that's 25 years. That's a long time.
25 years, longer than Holly's been alive. So is it?
Really? Well, no, because I'm 25 next week. So.
Oh yeah, it's next week, isn't it?
It's next week. I know. I keep forgetting. Anyway.
So longer than Holly's been alive, and if they've had no results since Holly's been alive, you might want to do that. But there are some people that did get great results early on that haven't really done anything, and they're kind of resting on their past laurels. There's one guy in particular who's kind of like a scam guy nowadays, but he legitimately did some good stuff back in the day, but he hasn't done anything lately. And he'll go and hit up bands and be like, oh yeah, I did this with this big band, and it was true, but he hasn't done anything since then. So anyways, you want to keep that in mind. What I would do is I would probably talk to, if you can, at least 5 or 6 people, preferably in the same genre you're in, so you can get some sort of ideas on it. But anything you want to say on that, Holly?
I think just, make sure that you're checking out like their website and all their social medias and things like that, because you can tell as well, like if a PR company are sharing, all of their band results on social media and they're engaging with them, you can tell that they're sort of genuinely caring and promoting. Whereas every now and again, come across a PR company and they don't share any of the band's results, and that just seems really odd to me.
Yeah, so, there are really good though that don't, so that is again a catch-22.
It can be a thing, but maybe just like, if you're finding that maybe the reviews aren't so great, plus they don't post on social media, plus maybe the price is a bit funny, just kind of consider everything individually, but also like as a whole. Yeah.
And one other thing you can do as well, in addition to talking to bands, is you can also Google to see what kind of press that they got. So like, for example, let's say it was Holly, you're talking to Holly and she said, yeah, Disconnected Souls got great results with Joe Blow PR. So you could just go into Google, you can type Disconnected Souls, Warring Elements. Fuck, I was blanking on the name. Disconnected Souls, Warring Elements reviews or press or whatever, and you can just pull up everything that you can see everything that they got. So and then if there's like only one item shows up in Google, you know that they didn't get that great of results, even though Holly might be saying, yeah, I was really happy with them. Maybe she was, because she got the one thing and that was her expectation, but maybe you wanted, I don't know, 5, 6, or 10 or something like that. So that's another trick that you can do. And another thing you can also do as well is background check the person that you're dealing with. So what I always do, this is my life hack. I'm going to share it with Holly. I don't know if you do this or not, but what I do prior to working with anyone, I do a thorough background check on them. Like I'm like almost stalker level background check. What I do is I go and I Google them. Then I check out all their social mediums that I can find. I'll talk to a few people that know them. And the way that I find out if they know them is I'll see if they have any connections on Facebook or whatever. One red flag is if you have, for example, 6 or 7 Facebook connections or Instagram connections or something with someone, and none of those people know who that person is. That happens a lot, because you'll see like this industry person has like, 200 connections that you're connected with. And then you go ask these people, who is this person? Do you know anything about them? And all of them be like, no, I have no idea who this person is. Or I heard that they something. So always do that. I'll usually go to, like I said, usually 5 or 6 people at least, ask people about them. Yes, I did do this with you, Holly, just so you know. So I usually go around, I go ask people, find out about them and stuff like that, just to make sure for myself that the people are on the up and up. So I do that with anybody that we work with. So I would suggest you do the same thing, because most people will know someone that knows someone as a general. And if nobody knows this person or nobody has any good feedback about this person, that's a bad sign. Let's hear your thoughts, Holly, now that you know I've stalked you completely.
No, it's fine. I went over all of your social medias and Corey's, so
Knew it.
Because I was like, who are these weird North Americans trying to work with me? Anyway,
Knew it.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, it's kind of good because you get you get a rough picture of their character if you see the posts and stuff. You can tell if people are, genuine or if they're a bit dodgy. So it's worth just having a look. Yeah, I I feel like you've kind of covered everything with that. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's kind of trying to think. I don't know. Maybe see if they've got like any, say the head of the PR, if they've done any interviews or if they've done like any news features as the head of PR or whoever runs the company, because that can be quite good as well to see.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
How well publicized there are and things like that.
Yeah, all those things can be done. And then also the last thing that you can do on this when you're checking someone out, in addition to the interviews that you said, also check on YouTube for them as well, because I usually do that for people as well. The main places where I look is I go to YouTube, Bing, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and I'm forgetting something. I don't remember. There's something else, but usually those ones I check thoroughly. Then I look for any mutual connections, anybody who's following them, ask a few people that I know and trust. Do you know anything about this person? And if they seem like they're fine, we're fine. We're all good to go. But again, I cannot stress this enough. If you hear negative feedback about a person, that does not necessarily mean anything. Because I have dealt with people that had really bad experiences, excuse me, with people that I know that are not this, or were like one isolated instance. And that was it. The person was having a bad day, or they just messed up that day or something like that. So just keep that in mind, because, for example, I'm sure someone out there is probably saying that I did a horrible job in their PR campaign, but you can find like another 10 people that will say that I did a great job in their PR campaign. I'm sure the same thing is with Holly. So you're trying to think, I could see it.
I'm trying to think now.
Well, it probably happened.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Nobody has a perfect record. So so just take it with a grain of salt. And the other thing too is that if you find a band that is really complaining about a certain person that you want to work with, that's a PR, again, that is a red flag, because a lot of times that means that band themselves had super high expectations and they couldn't have been pleased no matter what. So just take it with a grain of salt, take a look. Sometimes the complaint is legit. I've also, like I said, if I ever have a band come to me and they tell me that the previous PR that they worked with, it was fucking horrible, I go and I look into what that person got for press. And many times I will go message the PR myself and say, like, look, these guys want to work with me. What was your experience with them? And I don't mind doing that because of the fact, like, usually the PR will straight up tell you, like, look, those guys are dicks, or they were fine, or, I didn't do that great of a job on the campaign and I felt bad about it, or whatever. And, assuming the person is a ripoff, and most of the PRs that we know are not ripoffs. So, I wouldn't ask a ripoff PR about how the campaign went, obviously. But like, if someone was talking crap about someone we know, I would then go ask them, find out. Do you have anything else you want to say on that, Holly?
No, I think we've pretty much covered that. Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
Next thing is, do you want to go on to like the actual contacting the PR thing? Because that's probably quite useful stuff.
So when you contact the PR, Holly's going to tell you all about it.
I would do it via email for one thing. Some people are more open to social media messages than others. So email is usually a pretty good route. I would say be as polite, be polite, but also give as much information as possible.
Agreed.
Like if you have a release date in mind, if you know it's an album and you want to do 2 singles, you've got videos planned, you've got whatever, it's just helpful because then the PR can look at your email and say, yes, we can cater to this, or no, we're not set up for it. And it helps, you're not wasting your time and they're not wasting their time, sort of thing. So you can figure everything out much faster.
I agree. A couple things that I like to have. Number one, this is just for me personally. I don't know how Holly feels about this, but if someone comes to me and they just message me and they say, hey, I'm interested in PR, can I have a phone call? I don't like that.
Yeah, I don't like that. Although I avoid phone calls if I can.
Well, yeah.
It depends what it is. If it's someone I've never spoken to before and they're just like, can I have a phone call? Yeah, I find that a little bit weird. It's kind of, I need a little bit more information first.
That's the thing, is because 99.9% of the time when someone just messages me and says, hey, can you call me? It's something I don't want, I found. I used to do that back when I first started. People would message me and say, hey, can I get a call? And it would just end up being like, one time it was like a country band, another time it was like a pop band, another time, like other times it's just people just trying to find out information and try to like get free advice. So what I always do, like I tell people, before I will even get on a phone call with you, I need to have heard your music. I need to know what your plans are, and then I'm happy to take a phone call. But I will not take any phone calls without having heard the music and knowing when the release date is, just because I've had so many horrible experiences with people just wanting a phone call that was just like beyond stupid, that I don't want to do them anymore unless, well, I know that, let me rephrase that. I'm happy to do a phone call if I know the band's music, when they plan to release, and if they're actually planning on getting PR and they're not just sitting there trying to get free advice. Like I had a guy hit me up on Twitter, like I think it was 2 months ago, just dropped me a DM saying, hey, can you call me? Here's my phone number. And I was like, what? I just messaged him. I'm like, what do you want? He's like, oh, I need PR. I'm like, okay, for what? And he's like, well, actually, it's not PR for me. It's PR for someone else. And I was like, oh. And I'm like, okay, so who is it? Well, they don't actually have any songs yet. And I'm like, okay, well, what do you want me to do about it? He goes, oh, I want some advice on how to plan a PR campaign. I'm like, well, I don't, like, what do you want? Like, what do you want from me? Like, I don't know what you want. And I said, no, I'm not taking. So he was kind of pissed off at me, but I was like, I'm not fucking calling you, because like, what do you want from me? So if you want someone to call you, that's totally fine. But just make sure that prior to that, you have given them the music, all the information that's pertaining to it. And then, at least for me, and I know Holly too, we would be more than happy to call you, but we need to have a little bit of info first, make sure you're not just, trying to get free advice or anything like that, and just, or being weird or whatever. So
I guess one thing to quickly add to that is, I know a lot of people sometimes they don't know what they're asking for because they maybe don't fully understand what PR is. So I'd say, like, if you want to email a PR company and just, be upfront and be like, we've never done this before, we don't really understand it, can you tell us what it is that you do? That is absolutely fine.
100%.
So phrase it like that, rather than, like you say, just doing the, hey, can you call me?
Yeah, like, what you want.
Yeah, just like be open and honest, and then people know what you're asking for and they'll help, because, people are generally quite good and helpful. So
if you ask, right?
If you ask nicely. So, yeah.
So, okay. So then the next thing, so what I always like people to send when they're talking to us about PR, back up a little bit. When you are inquiring about PR, like Holly said, be as specific as possible, like include your genre, include some music, include some socials, give a little bit of information about yourself. The one thing that always drives me nuts is when people message me and they're like, can you give me some information and prices about your services? And I'm always happy to do that, but I always qualify with one thing you have to realize is that when you're wanting to work with us, you're applying to work with us. We don't accept everyone. And that should be the same thing with every PR. If a PR will take your money sight unseen, there's a big problem on that. So if you get in contact with a PR and all they say is, yeah, we're happy to do it, here's the bill. Run away, because they haven't even heard your music. So you need to make sure that they have heard your music, you guys are compatible, and all the rest of that type of stuff. Anything you want to add on that, Holly?
Yeah, like you said, if people are willing to take you on when they don't even know what genre you are, that's really weird, because every PR company should be specific to a genre or an area of genres, because that's where your contacts are. We don't have contacts for country music, which I'm kind of glad about. But anyway,
Holly, way to be mean about things.
Sorry. No. It's very popular. It's just not my cup of tea.
Understood. What were you going to say? You started to say something else.
I did. You know what it was? Your cat walked past the background and it's distracted me.
Okay. Fucking cat. Okay. So to wrap up, since we only got like 2 minutes left, what do we want to say in wrapping here, Holly?
I guess the thing is, if maybe say you've contacted a PR, you've sent them an email with all the information and stuff, and you've not heard back from them.
Yeah.
I would say, I don't know, a few days, a week maybe, and then follow up. Or
like us, usually the only way I will not answer an email is like if it went to spam and I somehow just missed it. So if for us, for example, if you email us or you message the page and you don't see an answer within 24 hours, there's a very, very good chance it went to spam. So what would I do in that case? So if someone's trying to contact us, they can't get through the main page, and let's say the email hits spam and we haven't checked the spam, what you could do is maybe you could tweet and just say, hey, at C Squared Music, did you see my message? That could work. Or
Yeah.
alternately dropping one of us a DM on Twitter or Instagram. That's what I
Yeah,
would
that's
do.
what, because I know there was a case a while ago where someone messaged the C Squared Instagram page, but it went into the, you know, like the requested message, like the equivalent of a spam filter on
Yep.
Instagram. So I didn't see it for like 2 weeks.
Yep.
So yeah, if you send a message, we're not ignoring you. We've just genuinely not seen it if we've not responded. So
Yep.
yeah.
So always feel free to follow up on it. There are some people that take like if someone regularly takes weeks and weeks to answer messages, though, that's a bad sign. If they're really days and days and days, like everybody gets behind on their emails once in a while. Like I'm 2 days behind right now myself, but that's rare. So just keep that in mind. If the PR takes 2 weeks to answer one email every single time, bad sign. You might not want to work with them. So in wrapping, so if anybody wants to work with C Squared, hit me or Holly up, or Corey up, or Guy up, or Aaliyah up, and we are more than happy to help you. We are taking clients for January right now and December. So and Holly really wants to work some more campaigns because she's really good at what she does. And any final words, Holly, before we wrap up?
I guess, I don't know, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer questions if people want to message. So yeah.
Cool. And with that, you're done.